NeonicVoid Productions presents.
All right, and a one, a two, a 1, 2, 3, 4. I volunteer! I volunteer! I volunteer as tribute to introduce this amazing, beautiful, stunning person that is currently sitting in his desk about 5 miles away from me. Hi, who the fuck are you?
I mean, it's probably less than 5 miles. It's probably more like 2 or 3.
What is distance but relativity?
Fair. Hi. Did you even introduce yourself?
Oh, they know who I am. If they made it this far, they know.
Wow. Well, you just expect them to know who you are. Hi, Wait, did we use aliases for this?
No, we use our names.
Oh, hi, I'm Devin, who can't seem to remember anything because it's been a long time. Hi, how are ya? What's poppin'?
What's up, guys? I was kidding. I know many of you probably can't remember my name. Hell, I probably don't even know most of yours. Anyway, I'm Jacob, and welcome to another beautiful session of the Book Watchers. Dun dun dun.
New and improved.
New and improved. Still under the same name, but now today you are joining us for our very first episode of our new format. So while we are still going to be reviewing books that have movie adaptations, from this episode forward, we're going to also be including other forms of literature and other types of media. So today, this episode is going to be on the comic series about a certain group of mutant superheroes. That's right, we are doing Marvel's House of X / Powers of X.
Yes, we are. I think I might have done the House of X, Power of X on Tea of the Gods as far as lore goes, but on this one we're going to go more in depth with it than I did on there. That was during a short time where I was covering Marvel as an anthology, because it is, same with DC, but nonetheless, we're going to be talking about House of X, Power of X, or Power of 10, as I am told it's called, but Power of X makes more sense because it's House of X. Why do that and call it Power of 10? That's weird.
Who calls it Power of 10?
That's what I keep hearing. I was listening to other podcasts on it and YouTube videos and stuff, and people were calling it, oh, apparently it's called Power of 10. And I'm like, I guess, but Power of X sounds better.
I mean,
to me.
Sure, the X is the Roman numeral for the number 10.
For 10, yeah.
But this is they're only. I'll admit this is their only weak link. But their weak link is we're dealing with the fucking X-Men.
Yeah.
Mutants, led by the infamous Charles Xavier, the world's most powerful psychic. Anyway, go ahead. Anyway, continue.
I have choice words for Xavier. So a little background of House of X, Power of X. So again, this podcast we're going to be doing we're going to be also including graphic novels and stuff that's not connected to movies and blah blah blah. And this is the first go at it. So House of X, Power of X background. Now this series is 12 issues long. 6 issues each. It ran from July 2019 to October 2019. Is the original run of House of X Power of X. It was written by the wonderful, the fabulous, the amazing Jonathan Hickman, who is also known at Marvel for doing his Fantastic Four run, the Avengers, the New Avengers, and of course, probably one of my favorite storylines. And the first storyline I jumped into comics in, Secret Wars. Back from 2015. Yeah, that was Secret Wars. So he was in charge of that. As far as the artists for this story, Jonathan Hickman is not the artist, even though he does. He's also a comic book artist, but he's just a writer and the person in charge of majority of the X-Men titles for a while. He's currently not. He currently left the X-Men franchise at Marvel, but he basically was setting it up and got a crew of writers and artists and stuff to basically play out the vision he had. So he left it in good hands. Nonetheless, at some point we might get into Dawn of X, Reign of X, all that fun stuff, but that's for a much later point because your boys got to catch up on more on X-Men because there's a fucking lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. There you can purchase the full volumes of these on either Amazon or do what old people do and go to a bookstore.
Yeah. And which I do have most of the current ones that are released I have digitally. I just need to go in and read them all. So, but this is the series that starts it all. The whole Reign of X, X of Swords. No, sorry, it's Dawn of X, X of Swords, and then that goes into Reign of X, and then I think they're currently in Destiny of X.
Yes, so right now, oh shit, has the next volume come out? Because so I'm subscribed to the show, to this book series on Amazon. Though I realize now I should probably just go ahead and get Kindle Unlimited, so that way I can read them for free. I'm actually gonna do it because I'm planning on canceling one of my subscriptions, and I'll just switch over to Kindle so I can save money. But yeah.
It's Dawn of X. Then it goes. Then that ends the X of Swords event, and then that goes into Reign of X. And Reign of X just finished their. Reign of X is still releasing the collective volumes. The last Reign of X was Reign of X Volume 14 that was released in September, but they've also released Trials of X Volume 1 through 12, and then right now they've only released the first 3 volumes of Trials of X.
Trials of X.
Yes, it's still part. I think it looks like it's still part of the Reign of X, but it's called Trials of X, and
Is that the Trials of Magneto?
I think the Trials of Magneto are. Let me see. Yeah, they're included in it. Yes.
Okay, because I've been trying to get all of the issues together for the whole
whole pip hop shebang.
Yeah, for the Trials of Magneto's, the Trials of Magneto, the death of Scarlet Witch, and what was that called again? Because I went ahead.
The Trial of Magneto was dealt with the Scarlet Witch because the Scarlet Witch, spoilers are going to be ahead. Scarlet Witch dies in Hellfire, and I think the Hellfire Club or one of those accompanying event in that event was in the Hellfire Gala.
It was the Hellfire Gala. She died. Yeah. She was murdered during the Hellfire Gala, and Magneto was the primary suspect.
Yes.
But spoiler alert. Yeah. It's this whole shebang, and it ends with Scarlet Witch creating an afterlife for mutant kind.
Wow.
Which, yes, I did say spoiler alert.
Wow, I wasn't even that far there yet. Wow.
Oh, wow. I just spoiled it for you. Oh.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. I didn't care that I didn't. I seriously didn't care that I was going to spoil it for our listeners, but for you, I'm sorry.
Well, honestly, I was going to get that anyway because I got Scarlet Witch Volume 1, and I'm sure I was going to explain that in there anyway. But wow. So that makes sense. That checks out. And I know she comes back to being a mutant and all that shit too, and all that fun shit. But
yeah. Anyway, so back to the House of X and Powers of X. Let's go ahead and dive in a little bit about what this series sets up for the mutant continuum. So
to get to before we jump into that, the artists, I still have some of the background to go through. So we have Pepe. I'm gonna butcher these names. I am so sorry. It's Pepe, Pepe.
Mm-hmm. Like the
and then last name is Larza. Yeah, Laura's.
Put it in the Zencaster.
Oh my god, I'm terrible with names.
And
it's sad because this is one of my favorite artists that does Marvel Comics.
Pepe Larraz.
Yes, Pepe Larraz. And he's the artist and inker of House of X. Then you have R.B. Silva. Yeah, Silva. And he's the artist and inker for Power of X with somebody else that helps him with the inking. And then you got Clayton Cowles for the lettering, Marte Garcia for the colorist, and of course, Jordan D. White and Annalisa Biza. Again, if I'm mispronouncing your names, I'm so sorry. And they're the editors of this event. That helps the writers. Yeah, this crew of people are the ones who wrote, drew. They're all behind the event with Jonathan Hickman as the main writer and leading this event because after his runs with the Fantastic Four, not the X-Men, Avengers, New Avengers, Secret Wars, he left to do more indie stuff, and then Marvel got him back and they gave him the X-Men. And he's like, bet. So that's what this is, the series that starts with that. Background is now concluded.
All right. So before we get into like the full details of the actual story, so we're going to I just want to just give you guys a little bit of subtext, a little bit of context about the story of House of X, Power of X, and what it leads up into. So House of X, Power of X, and the following sequel series like Dawn of X, Reign of X, X of Sword events, and so on. This series was meant to bridge basically all of the retcons, all of the stories that have happened with the X-Men so far. And the way they do it so it's just so naturally that I love it. It's kind of like they could, when you first look at it, you're like well, kind of it makes sense, but I like it. So think of every event that's been a retcon. So like there was a time when like you have the Days of Futures Past event, you have the House of M event, you have the let's see, what other events were there that were bridged together by the storyline?
Oh god.
Wasn't there one where there was one where of course there was a storyline where Apocalypse would eventually
Age of Apocalypse.
The Age of Apocalypse. You had the of course House of M, and then there was the one where Magneto confronts where Magneto takes on the Avengers.
Are you talking about the Avengers versus the X-Men?
Yeah, so the Avengers versus the X-Men storyline, and then they all eventually.
And then, of course, this takes place right after the, I think not right after, but sometime after the Inhumans versus the X-Men, and the death of Cyclops and all that fun shit.
Yeah, so basically, all these stories that had their run, even that one where that one storyline where Scott took on the Phoenix Force for a bit.
Yeah.
And so on. All these storylines get bridged together by one mutant, and her name is Moira McTaggart.
Which we'll get to her.
We will.
Which her backstory is included in the volumes and one of the issues, in issue 3. When so we don't want to get too much into her because the story does it for us.
So either way, mutant kind all across the world decides to come together, and just like what they did with Genosa, which is also canon, the Genosa event did happen.
Genosha, yeah,
but
the massacre of mutants due to Cassandra Nova, because fuck you, Miss Nova.
And the House of M, where Scarlet Witch nuked all the mutants.
Yeah, no more mutants.
Mm-hmm. It's all still canon. That's all still part of the storyline. But now mutant kind has come together and created a new
nation.
This time on the living island of Krakoa. And it's here where millions of mutants are currently flocking, even to this very day. You know, if you're all caught up with the subsequent volumes of the new Reign of X storyline, then you know this. There's still mutants coming around trying to reach Krakoa. So now we get into
Mars.
Krakoa. Oh yeah, Mars too.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, they colonize Mars.
They do, because Krakoa doesn't work. Krakoa has its issues, and they're like, you know what? Fuck y'all hoes. We're leaving the planet.
Mars is ours now, bitches.
Yeah, I forgot what they called Mars, but that's after, obviously.
I think it's now going to be called like New Araco or something.
Oh yes.
Yes. So there's a lot of shit that goes down. We're not going to spoil it all for you, but
eventually I do plan on wanting to covering all of Dawn of X, Reign of X, X of Swords, all that fun shit. So we're just not going to do it all at once. We're going to spread it out throughout this podcast, because we're also going to be covering like Stephen King and oh god, what's his name?
We're going to be doing R.A. Salvatore's D&D works, The Legend of Drizzt.
Oh, yes. Legend of Drizzt, Jurassic Park.
Ooh, and I just finished The Lost World, so I am so ready. Took me long enough.
That was Clive Barker? Clive Barker. We're going to be covering works from him, the guy who wrote The Hellbound Heart.
Ooh, and I did pick up a copy of that.
Oh, yay. And then, of course, we're going to be covering later on the Story of the Ring by, God, what was his name? Hold up. By Koji Suzuki. So that's going to be another series we're going to tackle in the future as well for this year. So fun stuff. Lots of fun stuff. But I thought we'd start off this new run with a run of the podcast with House of X. So, House of X Volume 1, let's begin. So, House of X Volume Issue 1 starts off with a very wonderful quote that I love, said by Charles, aka Professor Xavier, Professor X. The quote is, "Humans of planet Earth, while you slept, the world changed." And then from there, he shows the very first scene from the comic. First scene shows a weird alien-like forest with these pods or eggs that have these people inside of them. And then you soon find out that's obviously the X-Men, or Cyclops is obviously one of them due to the red lasers coming out of his eyes. And you see Professor X standing over these newly hatched X-Men, Jean Grey, Cyclops, etc. And he's wearing an all black suit, and he's wearing an X helmet that is giving the Maker. Now, if y'all don't know who the Maker is the Ultimate Universe's Reed Richards, who became a supervillain.
Ooh.
His helmet's giving the Maker, but it's basically Cerebro in his helmet, a portable Cerebro, basically.
New and improved.
Yeah. It's basically Cerebro in a helmet, and he just wears the helmet all the time now. It's like Xavier's thing.
And Xavier's no longer wheelchair bound.
No, he's walking.
Which, honestly, I'm not upset about.
Oh, no, he's giving.
Mm-hmm.
He's serving. But and he says the line, "To me, my X-Men," is giving Renaissance painting, where he's kind of standing over them as they're looking at him and his hands are raised out. So it's giving like Renaissance painting, like God raising up his humans. That it's giving that. It's giving kind of biblical references. Like it's giving. Probably that's what the vibe I get off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Xavier kind of, to me, it kind of looks like like the whole what's that fucking artwork called? Where God's reaching out his hand to man.
Yeah, it's the Sistine, the painting by Michelangelo on the Sistine Chapel.
It's kind of giving that energy.
Yeah.
Not exactly like that, but it's giving the energy. Yeah. So that's the first season. Then we jump to a time lapse over the course of like 5 months. So we got 5 months ago on the island of Krakoa. Then we jumped to 4 months and went in Westchester. 3 months on the blue area of the moon. If you don't know what the blue area of the moon is, don't worry about it. It's only mentioned this one time. You're fine.
If you want to know where it is, just go outside, look up in the moon, and there you go. You'll see
that's the blue. Don't listen to him. The blue area of the moon has its significance, but a Google search will fix that. That's the only times I mentioned it in this series. Then you jump to 2 months on Mars, 1 month in the Savage Lands, 3 weeks in DC, 2 weeks in Jerusalem. And it basically shows all these different mutants planting these weird looking plants in the ground at these locations in that time frame. And then we jump back to Jerusalem in present day. And basically you see a building that they planted. I think it was Nightcrawler planted it in Jerusalem. But the building is engulfed in like this plant jungle like habitat. Habitat forms from it. And then we see a bunch of these world ambassadors from different parts of the world: Germany, China, United States. I think there's a few other countries there, but they all meet up at this habitat in Jerusalem, and they're introduced, they meet up with Esme and Sophie Cuckoos, which they are, for context purposes, they're part of the Stepford Cuckoos, and the Stepford Cuckoos are a project from the Weapon Plus project, same project that made Deadpool and Wolverine and Captain America. If y'all didn't know, Weapon X, Wolverine, Weapon 1 was Captain America, which was originally made to be to exterminate the mutants. That's a whole other thing. But Stepford Cuckoos was one of the Project Pluses, and they are technically clones of Emma Frost. And there's like 5 of them. Yep. Yeah, there's 5 of them, and they basically act as a hive mind with one another.
Yep. They I guess that was like one of the unintended side effects, was that when they created 5 clones of Emma Frost, they didn't realize that these clones would be able to like form telepathic hive mind. So that way now they're emotionally and mentally connected to each other. And while on their own, you could consider their telepathy alpha class, which is a pretty decent. It's very powerful. But when their psyche combines together, their telepathy rivals that of like the real Emma Frost and even the likes of Jean Grey and Professor Xavier.
Yeah, they're pretty powerful when they are brought all together. They go by the other names outside the Stepford Cuckoos. They're also named the 5-in-1 or 4-in-1, referencing the whole hive mind that they have with each other. So you see 2 of the 3 Stepford Cuckoos, Esme and Sophie, which I think both these characters have a much bigger role later on, because you kind of get a in the later stories, you get more of a vibe about that the Stepford Cuckoos are more than just a hive mind. You kind of learn, at least with Sophie and Esme, you learn more about them individually from the rest of their little group. But nonetheless, that's a later in the story. But you meet Sophie and Esme, Cuckoo, which honestly, Stepford's a better last name than Cuckoo, but I didn't create them. I just gave them the Stepford last name, said Cuckoo, but that's just me. And from there, they usher the ambassadors into the Krakoan habitat. And they explain all of this. This is the habitat for Krakoa in Jerusalem, blah, blah, blah. And all these ambassadors are here because of they were here to meet up with Xavier. Well, that's what they wanted anyway, was to meet with Xavier, because Xavier basically contacted the world as a whole via their mind, said, "Oh, humans, while you slept, the world changed." That's where that quote came from. And Xavier gave the world an option. Hey, if you acknowledge Krakoa as a sovereign nation for mutants, you acknowledge us as a sovereign nation, we will give you these drugs. And the ambassadors are here to meet up with Xavier, or so they believe. Instead of Xavier, though, they're expecting Charles, but in place of Charles is Magneto. And everyone's kind of shook. They're like, oh, fuck. Because they weren't expecting Magneto. They're expecting Charles. And Magneto pops up and he's like, oh, I know I'm a poor replacement for Charles, but he's busy. So I'm here in his place. So
super quick. Super quick before you go any further, just to give you guys a little bit of concept behind the drugs, because it's not.
I was about to get to that.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So the drugs in question, because after the whole Magneto makes his appearance in his new silver, is it silver or white? It's giving silver, but it could be all white.
Armor. Knowing Magneto, it's probably white.
It's probably white. But they're there and everyone's like, oh, Magneto. Because Magneto, as y'all know, if y'all know anything about the X-Men, he's the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil, or was the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil. And he's a very, very powerful and very feared mutant. And he uses the flowers that make the drugs. So the 3 drugs that the ambassadors are here for, if they acknowledge Krakoa as a sovereign nation, Xavier will give them these drugs. You have the human drug, L, which extends human life. I think it's like 5+ years,
something like that.
Then you got drug I, human drug I, which is a antibiotic super drug.
It basically cures all diseases.
Yes. And then you got human drug M, which cures diseases of the mind in humans. Basically, if these 3 drugs get out into the world, the pharmaceutical companies are done. They're gone. Bye-bye. The medicine industry is deceased. And everyone's kind of low-key kind of freaking out about that too, as the ambassadors are chatting amongst themselves before the cuckoos came up. They were kind of talking about that and how these 3 drugs would ruin the pharmaceutical world. It would just ruin it as far as like making money and shit, which honestly the mutants are kind of just like, hey, we will give you these things to extend your life and shit if you just acknowledge us for free, no charge.
I mean, of course, plus shipping and handling, but we don't talk about that.
That's the fine print. Yeah. So outside of these flowers that are drugs that will help humanity, the 3 flowers are also used for other purposes for mutants. So the 3 flowers also can do these things. So it can also create gateways. So, for example, all the flowers that were planted a couple minutes ago that I talked about how they're planted in different parts of the world and elsewhere, they would create gateways to, when a mutant walks through them, it takes them straight to Krakoa. So it's an open gateway. Now, the gateways can only be accessed by mutants. Anyone that's just a human or a human mutate or whatever that's non-mutant cannot enter said gateway.
Unless they're escorted by a mutant.
And even then there's a whole thing with that too. But yes, if Krakoa lets you in, it lets you in. Otherwise, unless you're a mutant, you're not getting in. And when you get into it, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself now, but when you also get into it, the language of the Krakoan language is also downloaded into your brain. So Krakoa has its own language as well that all mutants speak on said island nation. Any whoosies. So you got first one that can make gateways. The second one makes habitats. And the third one produces a habitat that exists outside of the consciousness of Krakoa, and it doesn't know it exists.
I believe that
It's
one's
also
called what?
it's
Isn't that
also
called-
known as a Krakoan tumor.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah. That one's a rather interesting one, but that's I actually don't know if that comes. I'm assuming that comes into play later on, but not in House of X, Power of X anyway. At least I don't think so. Not that I can remember.
I think like it does like towards the
Kind
end.
of, yeah. Kind of, yeah. So then from there we jump to Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, as her old classic name is. She is leading a group of young mutants to a gateway, which is I think located in Westchester.
Mm-hmm.
And she is explaining a bunch of these mutants are like one of these mutants, a young girl is asking Jean Grey, talking about Krakoa and how this is home, your family here, blah, blah, blah. And they all walk through the gate. And then we jump to Cypher and Sage, which is two other mutants. Cypher is a mutant that, he's a walking, living Cypher. He's the only mutant that can communicate with Krakoa, or Krakoa communicates with him. And of course, he was also with Sage, another mutant.
Oh, Devin?
Yes.
Devin, you cut out there for like 5 seconds.
Okay. Sage and Cypher.
Mm-hmm.
Cypher's like the only mutant that can talk with Krakoa. Or Krakoa talks to him.
Okay, good.
Was that good?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. And of course, Sage is there, which is another mutant. Long backstory with her. That's for if you want to go looking into more of her backstory. That's not Jonathan Hickman, Chris Claremont, all of that fun shit. Way back when, I think it was Chris Claremont, all that fun shit. 90s, early 2000s, 80s, great. So
her mutation is computational mind. Like she thinks like a computer. So
yes.
That's it.
So of course, her and Cypher would be working in the working directly with Krakoa, the living island itself, and doing all sorts of stuff. Now, Cypher is also part of the reason why Krakoa is doing what it's doing, because Krakoa and Cypher are like BFFs for life. Because Cypher can understand Krakoa. Fun shit. Mm-hmm. That's where the whole language comes in, and how it's all downloaded in the game into mutants' brains when they enter in the gateway, partially due to Cypher and all of that fun stuff, combined with other mutants' abilities, all that fun shit. You just see those two, great. From there, we jump to the sun. Now, near the sun, there is a spacecraft known as the Forge that holds a device known as the Mother Mold. Now, you may be asking, oh my God, Devin, who created this Forge and Mother Mold for Sentinels? It's a Sentinel Forger, whatever. There's a group called Orcus, and they are known as a self-proclaimed last hope for humanity, made up of members from groups known that are AIM, SHIELD, Hydra, Alpha Flight, and many other groups. These are all like random, like people pulled from these different groups to join the collective of Orcus to basically watch over humanity and kind of try basically to keep humanity alive and prevent the extension of humans to mutants. And from there, we meet a character known as, oh gosh, what is her name? Omega Sentinel, or Carmia Shependar. Getting terrible with names. She's known as the Omega Sentinel.
Put her name in the chat. Let me see it.
Well, that's her actual name, but her hero name is
Omega Sentinel.
Yes. And
Karima Shipander.
yes, she used to be a Indian national police officer who has been infected with the Omega Sentinel technology and has become machine equipped with state-of-the-art technology aimed to exterminate mutants. But of course, due to the efforts of Professor Xavier Magneto, she overcame her lethal programming and was able to put to use of her Sentinel devices to help mutant kind. But of course, she is not now part of Orcus, who is out to exterminate mutant kind and keep humanity alive. So, of course, that's no surprise. Omega Sentinel is now working with the enemy. They should have saw it coming, honestly. But whatever, I'm not surprised. She has a long storyline as well with being part of mutants and being like friends. And she was on an X-Men group led by Rogue back in the early 2000s, I think. But nonetheless, no one should be surprised that she flip sides and due to either being programmed to do so or whatnot, but she's working with the enemy. Good. No one's surprised. From there, we basically learn about Orcus and how their goals to try to keep humanity alive. You meet the head scientist who's in charge, as well as they're making a mother mold to create Sentinels. Now, Sentinels are these robots that if you watch the 90s cartoon, you saw them everywhere. And Omega Sentinel is created from this thing as well. Well, not this mother mold particularly, but the Sentinel's goal is to be perfect, have the perfect Sentinel. And they're hoping to do this with the mother mold to create Sentinels to prevent humanity's extinction via mutant kind. Because again, as every other story with mutant kind, there's certain groups of humans that fear that mutants are evil and because they're different. And that's a whole plot of the mutant story.
Yeah, it's the classic story of just fear, fear of the unknown. It's just they fear that when humanity is going to go extinct, they think people are going to die violent, bloody deaths. But what they don't realize is that, when humanity, as it is now, first appeared, there were other creatures out there just like them. You got the Neanderthals, the Denisovians, the fucking hobbits. Even they were all part of the same species. They were just different genuses. But when Homo sapiens appeared, we were smarter, better, and the others, they couldn't compete. So what happened? They started dying out because they couldn't survive in this new world. So, but there is a but. I just want to point this out. Many of them did interbreed with Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if you do some sort of ancestry.com thing and find out you're 1 millionth Neanderthal.
Yeah.
So
because they intermingled.
Yeah, they intermingled. So technically, Neanderthals did survive. They just changed and became a part of the new superior race. Okay, that sounded really weird.
Well, superior species, but Homo sapiens, and then of course, when mutants came about, they're the next line of evolution known as Homo superior.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, humanity, Homo sapiens, are fearful that Homo superior is going to take them out. So, to give you more of an idea about Orcus. So, Orcus is makeup. So, here's all the different groups and the percentages that they hold in the company, or how many members are part of the company. So, the largest group of people from a particular group as part of Orcus is AIM, and they're 31% of this group. Then we got SHIELD, which is 24%. And I'm like, how dare you, SHIELD? How dare you? Then you got Strike, which is 16%. Sword, which is 8%. Alpha Flight, which is 7%. And I'm like, Alpha Flight, babes. Miss Captain Marvel, isn't that your group? Aren't these your people? Hello? Of course, I'm behind on that storyline too, so I know Captain Marvel works with Alpha Flight, but anyway. Then you got 5%, which is Hammer, 5%, which is armor, and then 4% is Hydra. Y'all nasties are working with Hydra. Ew, that's a choice.
Fucking Nazis.
That's a fucking choice, but whatever. And then that's the base of the makeup of the what people came from where. And then we jump over to Mystique, Sabretooth, and Toad. Now, Sabretooth, Toad, and Mystique are on a mission to steal info at this facility. And as Toad is trying to take said information, Sabretooth is murdering people because that's what Sabretooth does. Now, if this was Sabretooth in the 90s, it'd be more of a bloodbath because Sabretooth in the 90s didn't give two shits. So, I mean, this Sabretooth isn't as violent as the one in the 90s was. Look into that. Sabretooth is kind of a fucking savage. Like he's a monster. At least back then. So they get the information and they're trying to make a beeline the fuck out of there. And when they escape the building, they are intercepted by the Fantastic Four. Now, the Fantastic Four tried to stop them from leaving, but so once the Fantastic Four comes in, they're like, "Oh, we gotta get the fuck out of here!" No, sir. Then we jump back to the habitat in Jerusalem with the Cuckoos, Magneto, and the Ambassadors. And basically their interaction, they're kind of showing them this habitat about Krakoa. And they're thinking, oh, how about you show us Krakoa, like the actual island? And they're like, no, why would we do that? That sounds like a dumb idea that we're not going to do. Because I guess the ambassadors thought they were going to show them actual Krakoa. And it's like, you're insane if you think that's going to happen. Y'all crazy.
Yeah, after the literal decades of just extreme prejudice against our people, just simply because we were born with abilities we never asked for, Yeah, I think we're going to just do a solid pass on that.
And it's like, you think we're going to let you enter our home? You're crazy.
I wouldn't let these people in either. Shit.
But yeah, there's a whole interaction between Magneto and the ambassadors about that, and how the ambassadors think that they're preparing for war against the rest of the world. And I kind of like this interaction because Magneto's like, no, that was never our goal to do that. Y'all are projecting. Are y'all okay? Why are y'all projecting? The mutants don't care about wanting to have a war with humanity. They just want to have their own they want to be accepted in the world and live their lives like everyone else. But again, humanity thinks they're up to something when they're really not. They're just trying to find their place in the world. And humanity keeps getting in the way and preventing that. So I love that interaction between Magneto and the ambassadors on this, because it's very nice to see Magneto in a different light here, because he's full on siding with Xavier on this matter. And his goal is to have Krakoa thrive and leave humanity to do their own bidding, even though he doesn't like the fact. I'm sure he doesn't really like humanity that much, but he believes in Xavier's vision more than his hatred of humanity. So he's siding with Xavier and doing what the plan is he's supposed to do instead of doing what old Magneto would want to do. So, but I love that interaction between them. And then we jump back to Mystique and Mystique, oh god, Mystique, Sabretooth, and Toad. Mystique and Toad piece the fuck out in the Krakoan gate as the Thing is bashing his fists into Sabretooth, and Mystique goes through, but then Sabretooth is stopped by the Invisible Woman. And then this Fantastic Four has caught them, and then of course, who walks through the gate? It's Cyclops. And then there's a whole thing between, hey, oh my god, you're big fans of acting all nice and coy with each other. But not Xavier, Charles is like, hey, so we need
Cyclops?
Need Sabretooth back. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And he's like, but you're gonna. So he's like, there's like, yeah, they're not liking this at all. Obviously, it's even worse because there is an event later on that's the Fantastic Four and the X-Men dealing with Franklin Richards, Reed Richards and Sue Storm's son, who is a mutant. That's probably gonna be the next story we hit outside of the X-Men story, because that one's really good.
Wait, there's another, like, is that part of the Reign of X or Dawn of X series?
I think it is, but it's not actually part of like the books. It's a side thing with the Fantastic Four. Because there is the whole, which I will get into when they start, because they're trying to recruit all of the major players as far as the big what do they call it? As far as the big players in the the strongest mutants. They're trying to recruit them all. And Franklin Richards is the only one siding with the humans, obviously. And they're kind of worried about that. Which I will get to, because Franklin Richards, is known as Powerhouse, is a monster of a mutant. He could literally destroy everything that they have if he wanted to, because he's that powerful. So, but there's an interaction between Cyclops and the Fantastic Four, and they want Sabretooth, but they're refusing to give it to him. And they're like, okay. So Cyclops walks out. He's like, and kind of just walks away. He's like, oh, we don't, why don't you keep him? We'll deal with it some other time, some other way, blah, blah, blah. And as Cyclops is walking back, he looks back to them and says, oh, and tell, I guess talk about Franklin. Not Franklin. Yeah, Franklin Richards. It's like, oh, tell him when he's ready, he has a family in Krakoa waiting for him. And that really rubs Reed Richards the wrong way, as you soon find out in the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, because they don't want Franklin to go to Krakoa, but Franklin wants to go to Krakoa because he kind of feels, he doesn't feel like he fits in with the world. And he wants to go to Krakoa, but his parents are like, no. And then there's this whole battle kind of between Invisible Woman and Magneto, and it's like really fucking good. Because let me tell you, people be sleeping on the Invisible Woman. She's a powerhouse. She could fucking kick ass. She can kill a bitch if she wanted to. But people be sleeping on her powers. I'm scared of her more than I'm scared of Reed. So, but after that storyline and Cyclops goes back into the gate and leaves Sabretooth, we jump to the Omega level mutant chart that they have here. An Omega level mutant is a mutant whose dominant power is deemed to register or reach an unfathomable upper limit of that power's specific classification, which means they can't grasp how powerful this mutant certain power is. It's off the Richter scale, if you will. Of course, as Jacob mentioned earlier, that there's alpha mutants, and which is most of the mutant population's alpha, and then you got gamma, which is powers that are very much on the lesser scale. They're mutants that are not very powerful. They're known as gamma. Alpha is where majority of the mutants are located at of the mutant population. There are powers mostly in alpha. Then you got Omega, which is Omega mutants named as followed. You got Monarch, who has reality manipulation. He's also known as Jamie Burdock. His alliance is none. You got Iceman, Robert Derrick. Temperature manipulation. His name is also Bobby. And his alliance is, of course, with Krakoa. Then you've got Joshua Flore, which is Elixir. And his power is biokinesis, Krakoa. Jean Grey, Marvel Girl Telepathy, Krakoa. David Haller, Legion, power manipulation, unknown, because I think he's kind of MIA at the moment. Then you got Eric, Magneto, magnetism, Krakoa. Kevin, oh God, what's his name? McTaggart, Proteus?
Proteus.
Yeah, there you go. Proteus. Reality manipulation.
And yes,
Psionic.
he is technically Moira McTaggart's son.
Yeah.
And that is important because Proteus is used later on during the trials of Magneto.
Ooh.
Yeah, so if you guys look that up, he does play a role. And actually, Proteus does play a very important role in Krakoa, but we will get to that.
Yes, he does. He's part of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Mr. M, matter manipulation, unknown. You got Aurora Monroe, storm, weather manipulation, Krakoa, of course. Bennett Du Paris, Exodus, telekinesis, none. You got Quentin, which is Kid Omega, telepath, Krakoa. Franklin Richards, powerhouse is his name. Reality manipulation on a universal scale, and he is human with the humans. You got Gabriel Summers, Vulcan, energy manipulation, Krakoa, and Hope Summers, Hope, and power manipulation, Krakoa. Franklin Richards is one of their biggest worries currently, I would say, in this stage of Krakoa. Which obviously they have a whole series where they try to get him to join Krakoa because they rather have him on their side than the humans. Because if the humans were to ever, we soon find out that if the humans were ever to try anything, granted, I don't think they use Franklin, but Franklin is there on the human side, and that does worry Charles, especially, and Magneto. So those are the Omega level mutants as of right now and where they lie as far as Alliance goes. And Franklin Richards is a person of interest with Krakoa. So from there, we jump back to the ambassadors, continuing on their journey through the habitats, and they're still wanting to, there's a whole back and forth between them. And then one of them ends up having a gun. Magneto gets pissed. Dismantles the gun, and he's like, I wasn't going to use it. I was using it for protection purposes. And Magneto's like, oh, that's how it always starts. Why would you need to bring a gun? First off, why would you even bring a gun? You wouldn't be able to use it. With 2 of the Stepford Cuckoos and Magneto there, do you think you were ever going to be able to use it? Like, hello? So that was dumb on that man's part, honestly. And that's where Magneto really steps up his speech. And he calls humanity all a bunch of wolves. And then goes in this whole conversation how humanity, you love your symbolism, right? You love your religion, your religious religions of the world and shit. Well, you have new gods now, aka mutant kind, and that is where issue 1 ends, which I think is a fabulous way to end it. Honestly, like, it's so good, so good. So from there, we go into Power of X, issue 1, which honestly, this is taking a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. So, Power of X issue 1 starts with a quote. Here's the thing, Charles. It's not a dream if it's real, which is said by Moira McTaggart. So in this one, we jump back and forth into different timelines throughout history. So buckle up. It's going to get a little weird. So in this one, we're jumping between different timelines. You got X0, which is year 1, the dream. X1, year 10, the world. X2, year 100, the war. And X3, year 1000, the ascension. So this one's pretty easy because I'm going to go over what happens in each year. And it's basically just the bullet points of it. So year zero, we start off in year zero where Charles Xavier is walking through this fair. He's enjoying himself on this very beautiful, wondrous day. This is back in his early days. He's able to walk during this time. He hasn't lost his ability to walk yet. This is before the X-Men, creation of the X-Men shit. This is when Xavier has his dream, which is why year zero is known as the dream. So he sits down on a bench to people watch. Here he's approached by a young woman, Moira Kinross or Metaggard. It's also her name. Now, to get into this character right here. So, Moira is a character that's been around for quite some time, good 30 plus years in the comics, as far as publication goes. She's been around for forever. Not 30 or more than 30 years. She was originally the person that Xavier would go to figure out a mutant's abilities. So if someone's showing capabilities of certain abilities and shit, and he couldn't pinpoint on how like powerful or pinpoint what type of abilities these are, he would go to her, and she, as a scientist, would figure out the information for Xavier. So they worked hand in hand with each other back in the day. And I don't think originally she was a mutant. She was a human that worked with Xavier. Because I don't think she was a mutant until this, obviously. So he meets up with her, Moira, who makes a cryptic remarks about a fortune teller. And as the conversation goes on, Xavier mentions a beautiful dream. Now, to go into the detail with the fortune teller, she talks about the fortune she got about the 3 cards. The magician, see the magician, the metamorph, the great sword, and the girl with 1 foot in 2 worlds. Now it shows a mutant, a blue-skinned mutant that has a sword that looks like another mutant's. She is important later on. Then we got the tower. See the tower. The tower axis, the pillar of collapse and rebirth. The monolith of ascension, which is also important later on. And then you got the devil. See the devil, the red god and the lost cardinal of the last religion. Again, shows a red-skinned mutant that kind of looks like Nightcrawler in a way. Again, important later on. These are all characters, or these are all things that are that come into play later. So as she's explaining this to Xavier during this conversation, Xavier then mentions a beautiful dream he had, which he is trying to work out in his head. So it can be a story he can tell people. Moira remarks that a dream ceases to be a dream once it becomes real. Xavier realizes that something is not quite right about this and asks her to read her mind. Puzzled, he complies, or she asks him to read her mind. He complies, but he's surprised at what he finds. And that is where we leave off on X0 for now, because it kind of leaves off on that little cliffhanger. Then we jump into the future to X1, which is year 10, which is present day. Mystique emerges from a Krakoan gateway into Krakoa, accompanied by Toad, telling Toad that he is off the clock, job's done, whatever. She then carries on to the House of M, which is part of one of the many places on Krakoa, where she meets Magneto. She tells him that her partner, Sabretooth, was captured during the heist, and she got the target, a memory stick that has all this information on it. She willingly hands it over, but says her demands have increased. Xavier steps into view and counters that they will ask more of her in return. Mystique mocks his seeing of lack of humanization, as they put it. Xavier merely says that he is building a world safe for mutants and that everyone will owe something to live there. Now, a little more context on Mystique. Mystique did this job for one reason and one reason only. She wanted her lover back. They had not, as you soon find out, Destiny is, of course, in a relationship with Mystique. It's Mystique's wife. Destiny is a mutant that can see the future. Destiny is kind of, I wouldn't say a threat, but they're worried about Destiny, which you'll soon come to light on why they're so hesitant on Destiny. But that's why Mystique did this job, is for her wife, who's currently not alive.
Deceased.
Yes, deceased for now. We'll get into that. Then we jump into year 2, which is year 100, the war. Year 2, so this war is between the mutants and the man-machine supremacy. Now, the man-machine supremacy is basically man and machine joined forces to take out mutant kind. That's basically, that's it. That's basically the gist on that. So then you got a 4-person squad of X-Men consisting of 3 products of Mr. Sinister's mutant breeding program. Rasputin 4 is, oh gosh, I love her. So Mr. Sinister, Mr. X, is that what they call him? Mr. X? Mr. Sinister, sorry. Mr. Sinister is a character that loves genetics. He loves playing around with shit. He is an X-Men villain, and he is going to be one of the more important characters on why Krakoa is what Krakoa does. And honestly, if they could have found another way to use what Mr. Sinister has, I would never have brought Mr. Sinister into Krakoa in the first place. Because Mr. Sinister is a mess. A hot-ass mess. That's just my opinion on him. He's a hot-ass fucking mess and kind of a low-key dirtbag. But he's a villain.
Low-key?
Okay, high-key. But he's fabulous. So, I love him and I hate him at the same time. So, that's that. So, Mr. Sinister presumably sides with Krakoa, which we'll soon find out when we go back to present day, or I think year 0. Year 0, year 1, whatever. He's part of the formation of Krakoa. At some point between year 1 and 2, where the war happens, he leaves. He says, "Fuck you, mutants. I'm going over to humans." And that's where this whole story comes up, because he does more experimentation on mutant kind, but he ends up betraying them at some point in the future. And then these mutants are products of Mr. Sinister when he was doing his experimentation, because he does experiments on mutants and genetics, regardless if they want him to or not, because he's going to do it in secret. So Rasputin 4 is one of these products. He is a combination of different mutants' DNA. You got the metal skin, which is from Colossus. So, and then we got Kid Omega, which how she got her powers of telepathy. Then you've got oh god, what's his name? Unis? The Untouchable? I think that's his name. Or Gunther Bane, which is Force Fields. Kitty Pryde, because she basically has Kitty Pryde's powers, which can phase between objects. And then you got the healing factor from Laura Kinley, which is X-23. Or Wolverine. Wolverine. So these mutants' genetics all form into Rasputin the 4th. As well as like her sword, because she obviously is giving Rasputin vibes between Colossus and Magic. Because she has a soul sword, which is very much connected to magic. Yeah. One of my favorite characters. Amazing. And then you got other mutants in here as well. You got a cardinal and an unnamed cardinal and oh god, what's his name? Percival?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a mutant. Oh god. Percival was one of the last mutants that inhabited Krakoan settlement of Asteroid K. Presumable, blah, 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 blah. He's just one of the last mutants that are with Rasputin 4. So between them, oh shit, did I lose my place? I did lose my place. Hold up. Add this part out, Devin. I lost my spot. I need to go back to Aspects Power of 1. All right. Okay, where was I? Rasputin 4. First of all, whatever, as this group of mutants tries to do their mission, they are caught off guard by the as well as one deflector from the Ascendancy Black Brain program, Salabel. Salabel is also another member of this group, so are on a mission to extract something from the Nexus in the Northern Territory of this world, future world of Earth. Their mission has been discovered, leading to the death of Percival, and the Cardinal plants a Krakoan seed to be the gateway for them to escape. Salabel is captured alive, and who has the Black Brain, who's also a reference to the Hounds in a past storyline. It's an old storyline that she's referencing, that her character is referencing as. Granted, you really don't need to know any of that going in, so if you don't know anything about the past, like 40, 50, 60 some years of X-Men, you're fine. You don't really need to know it, but that's a kind of a reference to that for anyone who is big into the X-Men series back years ago. X-Men stories past. So they plant a seed to try to escape. The Cerebell is captured alive, and Rasputin struggles to free her. Additional forces arrive of the robots and humans, and Cerebell demands that Rasputin leave her behind to complete the mission. Eventually, after trying not to, after refusing, Rasputin eventually does leaves her. Then we jump over to there's a description of Mr. Sinister's mutant breeding program, which he ran from the Sentinel breeding pits on Mars. The mutant leaders would only endorse the program because constant fighting made it difficult for mutants to find time to have children. So that's where Rasputin 4 came from. The program lasted through 4 iterations. The first generation were designed to be divergent copies of DNA sources with a uncompromised X gene. Second generations were the beginning of the Chimera phase. Third generations are more so of this. They had featuring up to 5 X genes from different mutants. And the fourth gen was a generation suffered a failure and were produced with a corrupted hive mind that was responsible for the destruction of Krakoa and 40% of the mutant population. They committed mass suicide, collapsed Mars, and the sinister breeding pods and themselves into a singularity. A whole fucking mess happened on the 4th generation. But I think Rasputin 4 comes from the 3rd because she's one of the Chimera processes. It was also mentioned that Mr. Sinister was executed by the man-machine supremacy after being defeated or seceding. He gets publicly executed by the human machine embassy or whatever the fuck it's called, where the humans and the machines join together in harmony. Ooh. Oh, so from there, Silbel is taken to the human machine monolith and is standing before Nimrod the Lesser. Now, Nimrod is a sentinel that comes from an older storyline as well, but he is obviously back, and he is much stronger and more vicious than he was back then. So Nimrod's an older villain that came back, that Jonathan Hickman decided to bring back. They want information. So their goal is they want information from this mutant's black brain. She's like, you're going to have to kill me to do it. And basically they're like, oh, cool, we'll do that, but it's going to be worse than death. So they stick her into a tube, and there's this liquid of little microscopic little robots that go inside her body and basically make her a living corpse, where she's there, but she's basically dead. She's still able to sense and feel what's happening around her, but she's kind of she's gone. Like, she's gone. They have all the information they need from her. They're going to extract the information they are wanting from her brain, and that's basically the end of her. So from there, we jump over to them emerging on Krakoa, now on Asteroid K. There's an interaction between the group. Rasputin is inclined to hate the Cardinal, because Cardinal apologized to Rasputin for saying that as a Cardinal, he is psychologically incapable of violence, which is very similar to Nightcrawler. Because during the fight, he didn't really conduct any violence whatsoever, because he's like, that's not my way. I can't do that. And it's very Nightcrawler of him. And he kind of looks like Nightcrawler. He's the one known as the Devil on the card. He's very much like Nightcrawler in the fact that he's a passive. Or he doesn't want to conduct needless violence, for no reason. So he apologizes for it, but Rasputin is inclined to hate him for the moment, but they have a mission to complete, of course. The rest of the X-Men, including an aging War, with War is Wolverine. Freaking Wolverine is still around in this future.
Unsurprising.
But he's known as War, because also this is also the same group that is part of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Or their last group of Apocalypse is Four Horsemen. So he is War. And I'm assuming that's where they got the name from. So he's still alive, which I'm like, not surprised, because you can't kill him. Whatever. And from there, her to speak to the successful extraction of the target item at the cost of two of their friends. War says they need to take it to the old man. Now, the old man in question is, of course, Apocalypse. Because, of course, again, Apocalypse is still alive at this point, too. And again, not surprised. Are you surprised? Because I'm not.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Honestly, Apocalypse is one of the few mutants that I would think that stands a chance at stopping the Sentinels. But then again,
he might have at one point.
Yeah.
Maybe not now. Is that foreshadowing? So there's this and after that, there's a description of mutant demographic data with the deaths of two of the mutants. The mutant population of K, Asteroid K, is now 8. There are 8 mutants left. That's it. 8. Gone. Poof. That's sad. So, from there, we jump to the majority of the mutant population lives on Benevolence, a converted transport station located on the fringe of the Shi'ar space, which serves as a buffer between the Shi'ar Empire and the wildness of the broad breeding territory. The mutant population there is over 8,000. The Shi'ar homeworld has a mutant colony just under 2,000 souls, but a treaty with the Shi'ar Empire, most of them are used as warriors for the Imperial Guard of the Shi'ar Empire. Currently, there are 6 mutants that serve as super guardians, while 57 are under the Guardian classification. Now, if you're wondering, the Shi'ar Empire, who are they? They're an alien race that has a long history with the mutants because one of the queens had a thing for Xavier back in the day. So, of course, the Shi'ar Empire is going to be intertwined with the mutant matters. Not surprised. Again. Then from there, we jump to X3. We see a person that is blue. And from what I can tell, he is known as the Librarian. His job limits that the minds in the database are beginning to fade to digital decay. Nimrod, who's still around, Nimrod the Lesser has given way to Nimrod the Greater, which, what do they call it? What is Nimrod? A Sentinel. Sentinel have a drive to become perfect. So the next step from Nimrod the Lesser is Nimrod the Greater, who admits that the database was not meant to survive for so long. The database was intended as a tactical advantage to let supremacy win the war between them and the mutants. But the world changed so much that the war became unnecessary. Homo sapiens and its subspecies are over and past, but a habitat is maintained in the Nexus. A sealed biosphere containing some preserved mutants living wild in a wildness like habitat is a museum piece to pique the curiosity of younger minds, to give them a sense of wonder at the long story of life on Earth, and give an idea of the horror that could ensue if they were to ever rule Earth again. So they kind of, at this point in X3, they kind of see no point in having the war anymore, because humanity as they are kind of just, it's not around anymore. Humanity is not the same, as you're soon to find out.
Isn't that fucking ironic? They were afraid of going extinct, and then what happens?
They don't really go extinct. They kind of just, I mean, I'll go into it more when we get to it, but yeah, so humans and the machines become one, basically, which that becomes more apparent later on when you actually see it happen. But it kind of is referenced here because Homo sapiens are not the same anymore, obviously, because they teamed up the machines, and then the machines and the humans kind of interlocked.
Mm-hmm.
So humans are not the same humans anymore. They're more machine than human.
I think they're more like synthezoids, like kind of like Vision.
I mean, I could see that, kind of. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. That makes sense. They're kind of like a hybrid between the two. And from there, that's the end of Power of X issue 1. Oh, this might be a longer series than initially thought, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to keep going. This might end up being a 3-parter than a 2-parter, which we will record at a later point. We're not doing this all in one night, Jacob. I know. This ended up becoming a much larger project than initially thought. So, I learned, I just realized, I just deal with that now. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's a lot here. Cool. We're going to push stuff back a little bit. That's fine. So, we're going into House of X issue 2. Now, we just covered the first 2 issues. Now we're going to this 3rd issue in this overarching story, which is about the uncanny life of Moira X, or that's the name of the story anyway, or Moira McTaggart. So Moira McTaggart, this story is very much about her. It starts when she was 13 years old. Moira fell ill with an unnaturally high fever. Unbeknownst to her and anyone else, this was in fact her mutant power manifesting. Because of course it was. She wasn't a mutant before, but then Jonathan Hickman decided, let's make her a mutant. which I absolutely fucking love because her mutant power is kind of lit. So Moira would go through life as an ordinary person, having children, living life, marrying, all that fun shit, and eventually dying at 74. It was only now that her mutation made itself apparent to her as Moira was reborn. She goes through many, many lives in this issue, and we see those lives unfold before us throughout this whole fucking issue. So they kind of give a fast-paced explanation on her life because some lives are more detailed than others. Don't want to go over here. Yeah. So in her second life, it became obvious to her parents that Moira was gifted, of course, because she still had her memories. So when she's reborn, dies and is reborn again, she has the memories of her past lives. So she takes that information into the next life, which aids her in her mission that she's trying to do. So her parents find out, she obviously figure out something's not necessarily wrong with her, but she's different. But she is careful with this gift. She's careful not to reveal her true nature. Instead, simply playing along and allow her parents to push her into life of academia, where she might learn more about her true nature. After that, after watching Charles Xavier at Oxford, she announced to the world that on television that he was a mutant. This is when Charles Xavier announced to the world that he was a mutant. Moira was watching that, began to believe that she herself was a mutant, and traveled to America to meet with him. While crossing the Atlantic, her plane crashed. She died. That's her second life. What a way to go, though. Damn. Her third life happens. Moira's realigned to focus on genetics and anthropology, and actively sought out Xavier in Oxford. But however, she had developed a distaste for her abilities and found Xavier off-putting. She dedicated her life to developing a cure for mutations, but before she could use it on others or herself, she was intercepted by the Brotherhood of Evil. Destiny came into the picture. Destiny, who is the leader of the Brotherhood of Evil and a mutant with precognitive powers who could see the future, and I think she could see the past and future.
Something like that. She could see she's basically able to see all outcomes.
Which is one of the big reasons why they didn't want to bring her back. But So she is taken in by the Brotherhood of Evil and she meets Destiny. Destiny warns her against ever moving against mutants. She told Moira that she would be keeping an eye on her and would kill her again and again and again should she ever try to move against mutants. She also warned Moira that she was not immortal, but would live at most 11 lives, depending on her choices. After making this case to Moira, she has Pyro set her on fire and kill her. Because you get this whole panel that Destiny is like, okay, and Pyro just lights her ass on fire, and she burns to death. And this starts her fourth life. Fourth life, Moira decided to dedicate herself to mutant causes, fell in love with Xavier. She co-founded the X-Men with him, and together they led them for years until they and their fellow X-Men were killed by the Sentinels. That's her fourth life. Her fifth life, Moira took a more aggressive approach, running away from home at the age of 13 to find Xavier. She allowed him to read her mind, revealing the knowledge that she had from her first four lives. Radicalized by the experience, Xavier gathered a legion of mutants to build the city of Faraway as a mutant safe haven. Once again, however, their dream was killed by Sentinels, who killed Moira during the attack on Faraway. And that's the end of her fifth life. Her sixth life is a mystery. They do not disclose what happened on her sixth life. Her decided to eradicate the Trask bloodline, hoping that killing anyone related to the inventor of the Sentinels would prevent them from existing. She learned, however, that the emergence of the Sentinels is going to happen regardless, and that someone else would simply be the first one to create them. And of course, she was killed after discovering the Master Mold. Her 8th life, she rejected Xavier, but instead sought out Magneto after revealing that she knew to him he conquered the United States of America and the War of M, but he was eventually stopped by mutants, by the collaboration of mutants and non-mutants, heroes. Moira died after an attempt prison break. That's her 8th life. She's like, cool, Xavier's not working out. Fuck this guy. Let's go at Magneto. Oh, shit, that don't work out. So who she go to next in her 9th life? She turns to Apocalypse. Because I'm like, I guess that's the next step, right? Right? Apocalypse? So she goes to Apocalypse. She woke him up earlier than he normally does in the timeline, and believed that only he could ensure mutankind's survival. They and their first horsemen waged war on humanity and the Sentinels, but eventually Myra died once again. Then we go into her 10th life, which is her current one. Once again, sought out Xavier at Oxford. She opened up her mind to him again and revealed all that she knew. And that is where the very first issue ended on that storyline. When he read her mind, he saw all of this. All of these memories of her other lives. How they fell in love, how she went to Magneto and the Brotherhood, and how she went to Apocalypse, and how Destiny offed her ass, and all that fun shit. That is Power of X. No, I'm sorry, that's House of X issue 2. In a nutshell. All about Moira. Any comments on that?
Yeah, when I first read this, I was like, oh.
Right.
So that's how they're making they basically made everything canon. It's like,
yeah.
You know, everything that happened in the X-Men, it's canon, except now it's a twist. Each storyline was just another lifetime of Moira's.
Yeah.
And now with this last one, we're still waiting to figure out, is this it?
Because she realizes she only has 11 lives left. She only has 11 lives at most. This is her 10th. So now she's like, well, shit, I gotta go back to Xavier. I'm gonna make this work one way or another. So this is when she went back to Xavier for her 10th life again.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go into House of X issue 2. Now, from here, we go back to the early days of the X-Men. Professor Xavier and Moira McTaggart visit Magneto on his island base in the Bermuda Triangle. Because, of course, Magneto has a base in the Bermuda Triangle. Of course, I'm not surprised. Xavier has come to mend his relationship with Magneto, and despite it mistrusting him, Magneto agrees to open up his mind to them. Moira reveals her true nature to him, giving Magneto a glimpse into her previous lives like she did for Xavier. In seeing the many ways in which he has failed. Magneto joins Xavier and Moira's proposal that they went to him for, a long-time plan to guarantee the future of mutant kind. Then we jump to the present. And the present, Magneto, Xavier show Cyclops the plans of the Mother Mold, a master mold that creates other master molds. So this Mother Mold, creates master molds that will create Sentinels. And they believe the Mother Mold will usher in a generation of Sentinels that this is when Nimrod emerges. So, from there, they order a strike on the Mother Mold, which is on a station orbiting the sun, and Cyclops leaves to go get a group of mutants to go up there. Then we jump to 100 years into the future. A cardinal and Rasputin IV returned successfully from their mission, having retreated on an indexing machine, which will allow them to know the location of the key machine intel. Krakoa manages to successfully decode the index, revealing the location. Wolverine then points out the information is useless since they would have to hold off the Sentinels in order to access this interface. It will return to a suicide mission. But Apocalypse assures them they will succeed because he will personally go with them and lead them. Because that's going to go well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we jump to 1,000 years into the future. The Librarian, as his character is known, and Nimrod have been successful in their plan to prove their value to the higher civilizations in the universe. They create a collective intelligence called Nimbus, which transforms Nibiru into a world mind. Or that, I guess that's the name of their world. Nibiru? Embryo? Yes. It's a solar system. A planet in the solar system that is a frozen gas planet. Nonetheless, they figure out how to do that. They create a collective intelligence, and then the world mind is found by Phalanx. Now, Phalanx is a very interesting group or race, alien race. Phalanx is an alien race, which is a shoot-off of the Technarchy. They're a techno-organic race, essentially. So they are found by them, and Phalanx, who successfully consumes it, their world mind, and come to Earth to find its creators. They ask them what it is they seek, and they answer ascension, wishing to be absorbed into the Phalanx collective. Now, the Phalanx, again, is a techno-organic race. It's almost like a hive mind. They're wanting to be consumed by them to ascend and join the collective. Now, if I remember correctly from my research, they do have a chance of failing because the Phalanx doesn't see them as, basically sees them as worthy. They will kill them off. So they will either die or be absorbed into the collective. And that's where we left off. And that's where we leave off on Power of X issue 2. Then we jump to House of X issue 3. Now, this is where we get to the T. It's where we get into the TM Buddha. So House of X issue 3, we observe Cyclops as he is, the observation of Cyclops informs Magneto and Professor X that he has assembled a team in order to attack the Mother Mold. Cyclops then briefs the team composed of Wolverine, Husk, Archangel, oh god, what's his name? Marvel Girl, Nightcrawler, Mystique, and Monet Saint Croix. But Monet, but her name is Monet. So that is the group that he has gathered to do this mission. Did I miss it? Early days. Hold up. I lost my train of thought again. God damn it. Okay. House of X issue 3. Got it. Okay. So he gathered up these mutants to do the mission. They take off from the summer house, which the summer house is a house for the summer family. That's a thing. So in the superhuman prison known as Project Achilles, a trial is being held for Sabretooth. The trial is interrupted by the Queen Icon legend herself. Let me tell you, I was so excited. I was like, where's my queen? Where's Emma Frost? And when she popped in there, she walked in like she owned the goddamn place. She's like, nah, y'all are bitches. I'm coming in here. You're going to give me fucking Sabretooth. I love this scene so much. It's so good because she just walks in like she owns the fucking place. And she doesn't give two goddamn shits. It's just so good. It's just literally so good. At least to me, it's like real good. Power of X, X, okay. Let me pull it up on my little thing because I want to see this play out because this shit looks like fun. And I just love it. So, yeah, Sabretooth is brought up before the Supreme Court and they're wanting to put him in prison. And then, of course, Emma comes in with two of the Stepford cuckoos because, of course, she walks in and she's like, well, what have we here? And then when Stepford cuckoo's like, it looks to me like the monkeys are using tools again. Miss Frost playing at civilization. They call them monkeys. Wow. I'm offended, but like, slay queen, slay cuckoo. And then Emma's like, young lady, how many times have I told you we only use our mutant names in public, so I have to insist you call me the White Queen? And I'm like, that's the most... She's serving. Emma Frost is serving cunt. Like, she is full on serving queen. Now, if you don't know who Emma Frost is, let me give you a rundown on the queen icon legend herself. So Emma Frost is a villain / superhero / X-Men back and forth. She has a long, complicated history of being part of the Hellfire Club, Brotherhood of Evil, the X-Men, all that fun shit. But she is mostly known to be part of the Hellfire Club. She is known as the White Queen. She is one of the big players in the Hellfire Club as she holds the seat for one of the big seats for that. Her powers are... Oh God, me. Where are you? No, I don't need cause of death. Rude. Oh my God, I need a breakdown of her powers. I know her power set, but I want to make sure I get it right. She is a telepath, but I know she has other abilities. Okay, here we go.
Diamond.
Huh?
She can transform herself into a diamond.
That's one of her newest powers. Yes. So she's an Omega class telepath. Additionally, she one of her newest abilities that she got within the last, I think it was during the 90s when she got it, maybe. Because she didn't always have this power. Her skin can become a diamond. And when she's in this diamond form, you cannot tap into her brain to read her mind. It's kind of like it closes off her body, as well as her skin becomes hard as diamonds. So,
but she can't use her telepathy.
Yes, either. She cannot use her telepathy. So she's a telepath. She also has psionic. She can also make psionic shields. Telepathic mind cloaking, telepathic illusions, absorb information, download information through her use of telepathy, power inhabitation, pain inducement, all through her powers of telepathy, mind control, mind link. She has anything you could think of that she could use her telepathy, she can. So she's a bad bitch and one of my favorite mutants. So she presents herself to the judge along with paperwork as the U.S. government has agreed to a general admittance of all mutants on American soil with Krakoa becoming a sovereign nation. Despite the protests, the human officers at the court, despite the protests from human officials, Emma and Sabretooth are both to walk free and return to Krakoa. But there's a lot of back and forth because the judge is like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't have no jurisdiction here. And there's some of the officers are like pointing guns at her. And Emma's like, that might not be smart. Because honestly, I'm sorry, if you're an official like that in the U.S. government, you will know that Emma Frost is a threat. She's one of the big mutants that's a threat. I don't know what she was thinking, what that officer was thinking of pointing a gun at her, because she would probably end up shooting herself before she shoots Emma. But Emma's not using her powers because that's what they vowed to do, is not harm humans in any way. But she's using the power of diplomacy and law to her advantage, and she gets Sabretooth back. And they return to Krakoa. Then we jump to the Orcus Forge, where the Mother Mold is being constructed. Human scientists take that the X-Men have appeared on the Forge. Nightcrawler is sent in for retcon and encounters the chief scientist and Omega Sentinel. Omega Sentinel deduces that the X-Men plan to attack the control consoles in order to destroy the Mother World by sending it directly into the sun. The X-Men dock onto the station, begin drilling their way in, realizing that their only hope for defeating the X-Men is to basically go off and kill them all, or blow up the facility. So from there, they set off a bomb, killing one of the chief of security sets off a bomb, killing himself and destroying the X-Men's vessel. Now, the X-Men do not look like they're going to make this out alive, as they soon are aware. This is not ending well. But the bomb goes off, and that's where this issue ends. Yes, that's where this issue ends. Then we jump to House of X issue. Did I already do Power of X issue 3? No, I have not. So we go to Power of X issue 3. Now, Power of X issue 3, we jump to year X2. Issue 3, there we go. So in this one, we jump to issue year X2, the X-Men year 100. As the Church of Ascendance, conducted to the worship of machines, is hosting a sermon at the Temple of Concordance. The X-Men arrive and attack. Omega Sentinel watches from the human machine monolith, tries to convince Nimrod the Lesser of the need to investigate, and he refuses, of course, dismissing the attack as meaningless. Omega heads off alone to confront the X-Men, where she and a squadron of Sentinels gain the upper hand, promoting Rasputin the Fourth to remove Death's mask. So Death is another mutant with her, and he wears a mask, and his skin is like he's engulfed in flame. I'm assuming he's probably another one of Mr. Sinister's little chimeras, but he has a mask that holds back his powers. When you remove the mask, it unleashes a black hole containing within his head, killing both the remaining X-Men and the Sentinels. Funsies, right?
Yeah.
So
way to save way to save the mutant race, right?
Well, I mean, they thought they'd take them out. I guess they assumed the black hole would take more than just them and the Sentinels out. But nonetheless, they all die. Or at least a good chunk of them die. Meanwhile, Apocalypse leaves War and Famine, which of course War is Wolverine and Famine, and this one is Krakoa. Krakoa itself. Or Krakoa as a humanoid vessel. Fun fact. So, War and Famine with Apocalypse go into an old machine databank in order to retrieve an information crystal. They succeed in finding it, but are intercepted by Nimrod. Famine opens up a portal for them to retreat through, and Apocalypse stays behind to buy them time. War and Famine escape, with Apocalypse being subdued to Nimrod. Succumbing to Nimrod. Back in the safety of Asteroid K, Wolverine releases Mother Akaba, which is a mutant that they mentioned before. That's I guess an important mutant to them. And they're like, who's Mother Akaba? It's Moira McTaggart. She survived during this whole thing. This timeline seems to be connected to the one where she sided with Apocalypse. It seems. It looks like anyway, because she's kind of given the vibe of like what she looked like when she joined Apocalypse during that one life. So she is with them. She's Mother Akaba from her stasis. He presents her with the information crystal, force feeding the information into her mind, as per Apocalypse's request. With Moira's consent, Moira is killed by Wolverine in order to restart her life again. That's where she died in the Apocalypse lifetime, where she joined him. Is that she was given the information crystal, then she died. Now armed with the knowledge of exactly when in time Nimrod emerges. So she has the information when she goes on to the next life, which is the current life she has. So she has that information now. So that's where so it's kind of building up. Oh, okay. She has a plan because she knows exactly when Nimrod's going to come about, and she can use that to make sure that humanity can't do that, as well as the mutants won't suffer to Nimrod and their Sentinels, which is why they're going to the Mother mold because of that information they have. That's the end of Power of X issue 3. So I think this is a good stopping point for part 1 as of right now. Part 2 we will talk about the rest of it. Issues 4 of House of X, Power of X, 5 and 6, finishing out the series. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a lot because it is, but it's really, really fun. So continue on with our magical adventure through the House of X, Power of X storyline. Jacob, any questions or anything you want to add before we end today's episode about the first 3 issues of House of X and Power of X, or first 6 issues in total that we've covered today?
So, Devin's right. This is going to be a bit of a long ride, but it's worth it. It really introduces a lot of fun characters. We see these characters in a new light, and we're going to see mutant kind as a whole come together in the face of this new adversary.
See.
But other than that, thank you guys. And if I want to say, give a round of applause to Devin. This is the first episode that he did on his own, and I think he did great.
Oh my God, stop. I know I'm trying. I try here.
Yeah, now you guys don't have to listen to just me droning on for hours at a time.
Right. Now I'm in the play, but that's the end of today's episode. Catch us next time as we finish off House of X, Power of X. Until then, bye.